Hello again, and welcome to another broadcast of the Adult Center of Longmeadow. Today we have Mike Rabel, head of the DPW in Longmeadow, as our guest. I'd like to introduce some of the panel members. Some of you may know us. On my extreme right is Ellie Tyson. Next to her is Winnie Hopfe. Myself, I'm Jim Jones. Way on the left is Dave Grimes. And then next to him we have Eleanor Stoller. So Mike is here today to answer some questions for us. And I just have an announcement. If anybody has any suggestions for future shows, please call Ellen Gold at the Adult Center at 565-4150, and we'd be glad to entertain those ideas. Now, my first question is, we had Barry Thomas on a while ago, Director of Park and Recreations, and in my limited knowledge, I thought she was in charge of parks, and apparently you are. So what is the division?
Barry is responsible for the programs, and the Public Works Department is responsible for the maintenance of the fields, cutting the grass, grooming fields, things like that.
So she's just in charge of programming, and you're in charge of the physical aspects of
That's correct.
All the other ones. Okay, that handles that one. Ellie, you have a question?
I'm going to jump right in with the Maple Road project, Mike. How do you figure the time for a job like this? I know with the infrastructure the way it is here in this town, the water, sewer, all over is probably kind of like it was on Maple Road, and I happen to live in an area where we had the backups, and hopefully this is going to take care of it. But the length of time for the job, how do you determine?
In this particular project, it was designed by a consulting engineer, and they're familiar with construction processes. What they did is they gave us an estimate of how long the job would take. The Maple Road project was extended because we did, first we did the sewer line because that was the deepest aspect, and that was the original intent of that project was to correct some areas that had backups. After that, we did the water main because the water main was in close proximity to the sewer line, and we were concerned about settlements and the fact that this particular piece of pipe was smaller in diameter. We have a backbone of the water distribution system throughout the town, and this was identified as a weak link a couple of years ago. So we did that at the same time. And then Bay State Gas decided to go through and replace their main. The first day that we started construction, we hit one of their mains. It was marked incorrectly, and they were working off of 90-year-old plans. So again, we did the water, the sewer line, the water line, and then the gas, and then did temporary patching, and the final patching will be done in the spring. And the reason for that is because of the depth of the excavation and the type of material there. There's a likelihood that we'll have some settlements in the road, and rather do final paving and then have to go back and patch it. Would rather give it the freeze-thaw cycle through the winter to complete any settlement that may occur, even though we think the contractor did a good job, and then we'll do the final paving in the spring.
So you won't be putting any surface on it now, it's where it's going to be?
For the winter.
For the winter?
Yes.
Okay.
Very good. Any other? Eleanor, you want to have a question?
Let's see, do I want a question? Let's talk about snow.
Okay. It's timely. It's getting
it's
that
getting
time
there.
of year.
And I don't like that four-letter word either. But anyway, I can't complain because I happen to live on a street where the buses come, so we have very good snow maintenance on there, except when they plow it into my driveway, you know, the apron. And I did read something, and I think last year you used it. You put something down, some liquid first that kind of helps so it.
No, actually, what we do is we don't put the liquid down first. We've experimented with that a little bit, but only on major roads. What we have done though is we added a product called Ice Ban, which is it's a byproduct of either the molasses or the brewery industry, and we mix that with the rock salt. And we mix that in the yard, in our garage, and we have a tank where we can spread and do pre-treatment but that we're learning that. What this product does is it lowers the effective working temperature for the salt, so that it creates a brine on the road surface and keeps the ice and snow from bonding to the surface. And it will save
it seems
30
to do that.
30 to 40% of salt expenditures on an annual basis, and it makes the roads much easier to clean up.
Yeah.
So that when we go home at the end of a storm, if we've gotten this material down in a timely manner, and that all depends on the ambient temperatures, the ground temperature, the intensity of the storm, and how long it lasts. But if we can get it down quick enough, we can get out shortly, say maybe 4 or 5 hours after the last snowflake has fallen, and the roads will be black and ice-free.
Yeah.
Dave, Winnie, have any questions?
I do, about the tree belt. How many feet from the road is the tree belt, and what is the responsibility of the homeowner on the tree belt, and what is the responsibility of the town?
Okay, the tree belt varies. What you consider the tree belt is actually part of the right-of-way. The right-of-way is it's a technical term, and that's the width of the property the town owns. So if there's a 50-foot right-of-way and a 30-foot pavement, then you would have, for all intents and purposes, 10 feet of tree belt on either side of the street. In that tree belt, there may be trees, there'll be utilities, fire hydrants, mailboxes, and you might be curbing, if you have curbing on the edge of the road. The town is responsible for maintaining the curbing. As far as the grass on the side of the road, the only area that the town maintains is what would be in front of town property, whether it be a school, a park, town hall, the town green. The resident is responsible for maintaining the property, cutting the grass, raking the leaves, keeping it in good repair.
Can I add to Winnie's question now? The houses, like my house, doesn't have a sidewalk. So when I bought my house, the sprinkler system was right up to the street. Now that shouldn't be, apparently.
Officially,
Officially,
it should not be. And there are several irrigation systems in town that come up to the edge of the road. In the case of construction, if we hit it, whenever there's a construction project, we always spray paint. We're part of the Dig Safe program, and every utility comes in and marks out. Well, we don't know about your irrigation system. What we'll try to do is leave a note on your front door saying, look, we're going to be doing this project, please mark out your irrigation system. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. If there's damage to the system,
that's my fault.
It's your responsibility.
Okay. All right, that's good. Dave, you have a question?
Greenacre Avenue. What's the cost impact to the town of, first you put a yellow line down and then the neighbors complain, and now you're going to take the yellow line off, and reminder the other day it said it's going to take 3 nights to have to grind it off. What's the cost impact to Longmeadow on all this?
The painting of the line probably costs around $150. And again, it was done at night, as all line painting is done, because there's less traffic, less chance of somebody stepping on it, dogs walking on it, making markings in the road that are unintentional. As far as the removal, we didn't grind it. What we did was we sandblasted it. We had a contractor came in. Actually, the work is done. It was just done this week. They came in Monday, Tuesday, and a couple hours on Wednesday. I believe they finished. And that was about $2,500. The work was just completed. We don't have the invoice. We had a quote. It was estimated at 2 days' work.
Okay, good. So the overall cost, $2,500 to $3,000 impact to the town.
$2,500 to remove it.
Okay.
And maybe $2,700, something like that. I would anticipate.
Fine. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, Andy? How many employees does DPW have?
DPW has 44 full-time and part-time employees, whether that's the highway department, the water,
So you
sewer
have it broken
department.
down into
engineering, maintenance, grounds. We have the recycling center, which is open, well, it's open year-round, but different hours at various parts of the day.
And do you have any, you can tell us now, priorities, big projects like your Maple Street for next year? Anything coming down the road?
We are working on putting that together for next year, as far as capital, the capital program.
Okay.
You had planned this, though, ahead of time.
This
was kind of in the...
This was put into the pipeline a couple of years ago. We first got funding to have the design work done. And after the design work was done, we went back and looked for funding for the construction.
Because I can remember when we had pipes going up one side of the street on everybody's tree belt and everything, and then all of a sudden they were gone. This was before, well before, the project started.
We awarded the contract, and the contractor, again, was gearing up, mobilizing, bringing equipment, bringing in materials for the job. So he may have started a week or two getting materials in, and we wanted to make sure all of the insurance and bond, all the paperwork is complete prior to having the contractor come onto the property and start excavation.
Okay, very good. And what is your yearly budget for the DPW?
Current budget this year is like $7.6 million. Again, that's for the highway department, the water department, sewer department, engineering, the grounds maintenance, and building, school, town and building maintenance. And that also includes the sanitation budget, which includes refuse collection, refuse disposal, and the operation of the recycling center.
Do you expect your budget next year to go up or down, and the impact of Massachusetts on not having much money?
We haven't gotten. We're starting to develop our budgets. We know it's going to be a tough year. It was a tough year this year, and we know it's going to be a tougher year next year. Last year we had basically a 0% increase. And that's difficult to accomplish when there are a number of costs that go up. Whether you're buying oil, electricity, utilities, all those increases come in. Health insurance, benefits, those increase. So we have to make other offsetting adjustments in the budget just to stay at a 0% budget.
Does that $7 million, does that include salaries?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Everything includes
Yes,
salaries
yes,
and
that's everything.
health insurance and everything.
Now, is your department going to get involved in the high school reconstruction project, like for sewerage and so on and so forth?
Well, I am a member of the school building committee.
Okay.
As far as our department doing actual construction for this project, no, I would not expect that to happen.
Okay. All right. And what priorities do you have for the town for next year? Not projects, but priorities. Is there infrastructure as opposed to?
Well, again, we've different divisions are doing different things and have different priorities. The highway department is going. We've made a major inroad in the last 3 years in cleaning catch basins, storm drainage basins, and it rained very hard this morning. We had very few puddles in the road. So it's a long-term project. It took a long time for those catch basins to fill, and it's taken us 3 years to go through. And we haven't done every catch basin in town. By next season, we will have everything done. It's just a small area of town, maybe 8 or 9 streets that haven't been done, and we're pecking away. We'll try to peck away at those with our own equipment. As far as on Shaker Road recently, there's some guardrail that was installed. There was old highway cables and posts. They were in very poor condition. We've had work like that done. We'll continue with our paving program. We get Chapter 90 money from the Mass Highway Department to the tune of $375,000. So we'll continue with paving and sidewalk maintenance and repairs. As far as the grounds department, we've made major inroads in the last couple of years. The grounds staff is there's one individual that's been there 35 years. He was a transfer in. Everybody else has been there 2.5 years or newer. And we've reorganized things. We've gotten some. We've got a new foreman, Carl Quist. We've got new equipment, and we're doing things that we have never done before to try to make the grounds look very, very nice. Not just the grounds, but all the athletic fields. I mean, here it is in November, and we're working on baseball fields for the spring so that we can be ready to go. Because again, baseball and softball, I mean, those people want to get rolling.
Sure.
The snow's not even off the
Right.
ground completely.
We're in March. We're ready to go.
I noticed up at Greenwood Park, you've got that huge, you had all that dirt, and they've spread that all around to the new.
That was on the softball field.
Right.
It was a typical baseball field with grass on the infield. To make it easier to maintain, we turned it to a skin infield, and we ran into major drainage problems there. We skimmed off that much sod off the top of the field on the infield, and we had water bubbling up out of the ground. So we had to put in an underdrain system that wasn't anticipated. We've got a couple other softball fields that have been done over at Wolf Swamp, and we're trying to get every field done so that every field looks as good as the ones that have been reconstructed. And some of those fields haven't been done in many, many years.
Long time, yeah.
It struck me that when I saw the guardrails, which looked nice on Shaker, that now the poor deers are going to have to jump over the guardrails.
They had to jump over the cable and fence. This is easier for them to see.
What about your public works infrastructure down there? Is there a plan to upgrade that? I keep hearing talk about
our facility was the highway garage was built in 1930. The first part of it. It was built on top of an old burned landfill. Right. It is inadequate. If you go out to an in-and-out loop center, they have more equipment than we have to maintain over $1 million worth of equipment. So the high school, which has recently been approved just this week, the maintenance department is going to have to move out of the high school. So we're going to have to provide space for them, and we currently don't have space at the DPW to bring all of the men, the equipment, shop equipment, and trucks and.
Are there any plans in work to upgrade those old buildings?
We looked at it. We had a study done, and because we are confined by the wetlands, the railroad, the road, we have the main sewer in town runs right through the parking lot. There's a cross culvert with drainage that runs north and south. We don't have enough property there to construct the size of the building we need, have a separate building for salt and a fueling depot, because we do all the fueling for every piece of equipment in town. The police department, fire department, senior center, schools, everything all gets their fuel at the DPW. And there physically is not enough room. The other major thing down there is that most of our site is in the 100-year floodplain.
Yes.
The street signs in the town. I noticed the main thoroughfares have beautiful new street signs. When are the secondary?
We are working on them. We have been replacing them. It's a slow go.
How did that start?
That's a federal highway requirement, not a recommendation, to go through. And I've gotten, when we've gone through, we always get favorable comments because the signs are larger, they're brighter.
You can see them at night.
You can see them at night.
Yeah.
You may not be able to read the sign from 100 yards or 150 yards away, but it's identifiable as a street sign.
Right, and now the other ones will be
and we are picking through. I think we have plans to replace 140. We've got, as you said, all the major thoroughfares, and we're working, filling in the neighborhoods.
Except Hazardville and Maple, there's no sign.
There was a sign, and it was knocked over and/or stolen.
Oh, okay.
My question on the signs are, I know it's state mandated that we have to change to that particular. Federal, okay, it's federal. But we have gone, and is it more, didn't it cost us more? We have like 2 signs to get tied together and our town logo.
That's.
Other ones just have one sign with the name on one side and the other.
Some have that. These signs are made to comply with the law. The pole is a breakaway pole. So when you have the breakaway pole, you have a sign face on each side. So I mean, you do have the extra cost of an additional aluminum sign blank, but the fabric, the sheeting, the lettering, that costs the same. The hardware, you've got the same amount of hardware.
And even the printing of the logo is...
the printing of the logo costs a couple bucks more per sign, but I've gotten several favorable comments because it has a town seal
Now,
on it.
did we have to pay, did the federal government put any money towards this mandated program, or did we have to foot the whole
No,
bill?
we are footing the bill, but the one thing that we did
Mandate.
is we took advantage. 3M, who is a manufacturer of the fabric, the material for the signs, they had a grant, and we put in a grant last year, and I don't recall what the grant was, maybe $8,500 or so.
Okay. Now, we know the Bliss tennis courts are unused. Do you have any say in what happens to those, or do you have any idea what may happen to those in the future?
As far as say, I mean, again, programs are not run by the DPW.
Right.
The maintenance is.
Okay.
What we've been trying to do is just keep the weeds cut down. I've heard a lot of ideas, suggestions about what might happen there.
Okay.
But
So you have nothing to do with that at all?
No.
Okay. If people, like when he asked about the tree belt, if the tree on the tree belt has to be taken down, who determines that it's ready to be cut down, or can I call you and say, Mike, the tree on my tree belt is dead?
I am the tree warden, as well as a public works director, so I would be the one that goes out there and make a decision. One of my assistants, Rich Harity, is the assistant director for highway operations, is assistant tree warden. He will go out there, and if it's clear cut, I mean, if you get out there and it's the middle of July and there's, you could take a pillowcase and stuff all the leaves, it's evident that the tree is dead and it is going to be harmful.
I'll put a plug in for the Bill Morey and the Long Meadow Volunteers. They work with your department.
They have done a great
trees.
job, and when you talk about the volunteers, don't forget to include yourself.
Right.
But there are several people, a small group of people with the Long Meadow Volunteers that last year did a lot of work cleaning up around school properties and school grounds, cleaning up fence lines and backstops and things like that. This year they were looking for something different, and off the top of my head I don't remember the total of trees, but we have, as part of the forestry budget, we have been purchasing trees, and the Long Meadow Volunteers have been planting them. So, and we're putting together a list of types of trees for next year.
Right. Because you don't want a tall tree to interfere with the power line.
Under a power line, we want to have smaller trees.
Right.
We want to have the right tree for the right location.
Right. I just, on Ellen, you have any more questions, anybody?
Well, go ahead. No, go ahead.
About trash collection, do you foresee any changes in trash
collection? The current contract expires on June 30th. So we are putting together, there's a group of people, Arlene Miller, Erwin Pers, myself, Mark Gold from the Select Board are part of a committee, and we are working along with the town of East Long Meadow because they have a similar makeup for this committee, because we have, for the past 5 years, or 4.5 years, we've used the same contractor, and there are a lot of benefits to that. So we are in the process of looking at a number of things. I think recycling is something we're looking at, or whether you might have a wheeled container to put your trash out. Whether single stream recycling would be where you put your cans, your glass, your paper all in one container. And it still might be collected every other week, but everything goes out to the curb at the same time instead of alternating 1 week after the next week. So there are a number of things that we're looking at.
Eleanor?
These roll-out containers that you spoke of, they're going to be supplied to us from the town, or we?
If that's the direction we would go, yes.
Would they need special? Would the company that's picking it up, would they need special trucks to pick these up, or is it just something they pick up?
No, it wouldn't be your regular round trash can. It would. Some people have them in town.
I have with the wheels, yeah.
But these are made so that when the arm reaches out and grabs it, it doesn't crush it. So if you've got the typical homeowner type,
Right.
That's like what they have in Springfield?
Yeah, they have.
yes,
their-
same thing. That's
their
what we would be
trucks.
considering.
Yeah, their trucks automatically pick it up, though. It would
Yes.
be new trucks for the waste companies to purchase or have or whatever.
Well, whether the waste company purchases it or town purchases it,
Well, that's-
it all comes out of your pockets.
That, for sure.
So-
And it all does. everything.
But there might be advantages to having the town purchase it. Because eventually, no matter who pays for it, we want the equipment to belong to the town.
Okay.
If it belonged to the town, I'm not against it,
Mm-hmm.
but then would we have to kind of be obligated to stay with this particular company, and we wouldn't have
No, because the type of equipment, this is, I live in Windsor Locks, we've been doing this since July, just for recyclables.
Yeah.
And any trash company now can get the equipment, or pretty much
I
they
see.
all have the equipment.
Yeah.
So whether it's brand A truck or brand B truck, as long as they have the type of equipment, they can empty the containers.
What do you think? And I think last year, not last year, but several years ago, they spoke about this. And wasn't it going to cost us something like $250,000 to purchase?
I didn't work here at
Oh,
the
yeah,
time.
you did.
I
See,
don't remember.
That's when you live here long. Yeah, remember
Yes,
these things.
but it may be over 5 years. But again, if you're going to use the equipment over 10 years, and it's that much easier for you as a resident to put the stuff out, there are benefits. On a day like today where it was pouring, if you've got the container out there with a lid on it, it's dry.
Yeah, I do.
So
Yeah.
it's cheaper when that truck goes to dump at the disposal area, because you're not paying for the water that fell from the sky.
Yep.
Yeah, we
And
can't get more.
that's like a 15 statistics show that's about a 15% difference.
Wow.
Yeah. And we don't get more poundage if it's wet, huh?
Well, if it's wet and it's newspaper,
Yeah.
then you get credit for it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow,
when
there's
it's-
something
when
we
it's-
should think
But
about.
when it's trash,
Yeah.
Right.
and there's a lot more trash generated than
Yep,
recyclables, so
Yeah.
you're paying more to get rid of that trash, and what you're paying for in a lot of cases is water.
Yeah. Oh, that's true too. It works, yeah, both ways there.
We're getting down towards the end of our program, and I would just like to make two thank yous to certain people. I'd like to thank Dave Bartlett and the station manager and his crew here for making us feel welcome every time we come. They've done a great job putting this show on for the past year and a half. And I'd also like to thank Noreen Smith, even though she's now retired from the Adult Center. She's been shepherding this program now since its inception, and we want to thank her for her tutelage over the past year and a half. And my last question for Mike is, are we going to have lights on the green this year, Mike?
We will have, as a matter of fact, the lights are going to go up tomorrow, I believe tomorrow afternoon. I don't know whether it's right to do a plug or not, but I'm going to do it.
Do a plug,
Wayne
go ahead.
O'Taney from Tree Corps was a town resident, and the tree that gets decorated was originally planted in memory of his grandfather, and Wayne has volunteered his time and equipment to put the lights on the tree, and that'll be done tomorrow, Saturday afternoon.
Great. I just want to, when Eleanor was talking about the snow, being a city boy coming from New York City and living on a street that didn't get plowed for 4 days, moving up here, and my street is clear within hours after it snows, it's a refreshing sight to see that you can get out of your house if you want to.
It's an orchestrated, it's a big event to clear a storm. I think the guys in the highway department, grounds department, and maintenance department, they all participate. They all have different functions. But I think we do an excellent job.
You do. You really do an excellent job.
Thank you for that.
I was surprised when I first moved here, and my wife said, "Oh, I may have not come into work because there's going to be a big snowstorm." And everybody says, "What?" And unfortunately, she was able to go to work because she cleaned the streets.
Good for her.
So I want to thank Mike for coming here today. And
Thank you.
well, and if you do have any suggestions for the future shows, I want you to please call Ellen Gold at the Adult Center at 565-4150, and we'll see who we can have on in the future. And I want to thank the panel, Ellie, Winnie, Dave, and Eleanor for your questions, and thank you very much for your show. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.